floating.
This conversation, I mean, Ron sort of addressed it on the recap show about tanking. I mean, the Dolphins, the way they're tanking, though, I mean, they're giving up Minkah Fitzpatrick, who gets traded to Pittsburgh. I mean, that's a building block. That's a young player who you have to get on your side. You have to get him. You have to convince him that what you're doing is going to be what's best for the organization moving into the future. Trading him away is getting rid of a building block. I mean, you can have as many draft picks as you want. You could miss on a bunch of them, but if you got nothing to build around, I mean, Tua's going to come to this team. Who's he going to throw to? Who's he going to hand the ball off to? Who's going to block in front of him?
Yeah.
I mean,
my point to our super fan.
That's great. You know what? Tua, then they're going to tank just as bad next year as they will this year.
Yeah, they will. They will. I mean, I don't really understand that. Oh, my.
Hello?
I'm sorry. That's probably Paul from New Zealand. But
No, but Minkah Fitzpatrick, I really don't understand that. He's like one of their most talented players, and he would still be under contract for 4 years, including a 5th-year option. So I really didn't understand that move.
It doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. The final thing, as I teased earlier, this week at least 18 quarterbacks aged 26 or younger are expected to start. That hasn't happened in 32 years since week 3 of the 87 season, where also 18 started. And if a 19th quarterback starts at age 26 or younger, that would be a first in the 100 seasons of the NFL.
Can I just go back to Paul's point there? He asked how many first round picks a team has had, the most of all time. As far as I can tell, Jay, I'm looking at the 2000 draft, where the New York Jets had 4 first-round draft choices.
Did they draft Anthony Beck in that draft?
They did. They drafted Sean Ellis at 12. They drafted John Abraham at 13.
That's right. I forgot about that draft.
Then they drafted Chad Pennington at 18.
So they hit on 3 or 4.
And Anthony Becht at 27. So Ellis and Abraham both went to the Pro Bowl, and Chad Pennington certainly had his moments. He was never a franchise QB, but had his moments.
No, for sure. I would say they hit on 3 or 4 of those picks.
Yep.
Solid.
All right, speaking of picks, let's start picking some games. And as always, we will start with the Thursday night game. Let's try and roll through this one, gentlemen, as it is a Thursday night game, which will have the least amount of legs going forward. The Tennessee Titans are at the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Titans are 18th in our power rankings. The Jaguars are 22nd. The point spread, the Titans are favored by 1.5. Doug Marrone, the head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars, 1-4 lifetime versus the Titans. We're all going to take Tennessee. James, what?
What'd I do?
You took the Jaguars.
You have faith in the porn star Gardner Minshew?
Yeah, sure. Why not? They're at home. They have to win sometime. If not now, when? Real quick on the injury front, A.J. Boye is listed as questionable. Josh Robinson is also listed as questionable for tonight. For the Titans, Wesley Woodyard is questionable, but Chris Milton and Kelvin Pamphile are out, along with David Fluellen.
Yeah, that only gives me more faith that Marcus Mariota and the fighting Tennessee Titans are going to get the job done.
Poop. It'll be Derrick Henry if they're going to win.
I'm
pretty much, and I think the Jaguars can stop Derrick Henry this time.
I know you don't want to speak.
The only thing that I'm concerned about is which defense to pick in my DraftKings lineup, because I know whichever one I pick will probably give up a touchdown on the first drive.
I know you don't want to stay on this game, Jay, for too long, but we just mentioned Minkah Fitzpatrick there for Miami, or now Pittsburgh, and here we've got Jalen Ramsey, the cornerback at Jacksonville, and I'm just going to say, I don't like players who at the first sign of trouble want out, and I'm not sure I'd be giving up first round draft choices for guys with that sort of attitude. I think at times like those, Jay, I mean, one's mind wanders to the great thinkers and philosophers of our time. And here, I think one is definitely drawn to those thoughts of one Billy Ocean, who told us that when the going gets tough, the tough get going. And these guys who just kind of want out, if something's going bad for me, I don't like the coach. Oh, I'm not very happy. Trade me to another team. No. When I draft a first round pick or give up a first round pick, I want a guy who is going to fight for my organization on the field. He's going to represent us well off the field, and I want somebody who's going to lead me in the locker room. And these guys, they're not leaders. They're not leaders. They're guys who are in it for themselves, in it for their stats. And honestly, if you get first round picks, get rid of them.
Millennials, man, they stink.
Neil, I think you said a whole lot of really intelligent things right there, but I was too caught up with the Billy Ocean reference.
Jay,
Neil, you're on point today.
Yeah,
it really is.
Come on, Billy Ocean, he's a legend.
Do we think that the Antonio Brown thing has sort of opened up Pandora's box? I mean, maybe Antonio wasn't the first one to do this. Maybe we even go back to Le'Veon Bell. I mean, holdouts have always been a thing, but it does seem like now all of a sudden, I want out of here. So they get out. Minka Fitzpatrick.
Antonio Brown, hold on. The Antonio Brown situation is different from Minka Fitzpatrick and Jalen Ramsey. Antonio Brown wanted out because of what was going on in the locker room with Ben Roethlisberger, and he also wanted more money. These two DBs pretty much just want to get to winning organizations because their teams are losing. So,
remember, Antonio Brown was with the Raiders for this offseason.
Okay, and it never played a game with them.
Right.
I don't want to sound cynical here, but I have a funny feeling this is something the NFL is also encouraging, because I think they look at the NBA and they see all the trades and all that excitement with trades. And I think, and I have a feeling the NFL are thinking, this adds another string to our bow. We've got free agency, we've got the draft, we've nailed up being the most popular sport. Let's chuck in another thing here, and that is, in season and out of season trades. This is exciting. First round picks swapped around. Maybe just a cynical approach.
I don't know how exciting it is. I find it rather unsettling. That's how I look at it.
Unsettling. Why? Just not happy with Antonio Brown?
Have you not heard me on this podcast? I will not root for Antonio Brown. It's not happening.
I'm looking at a video picture just now, and you've changed the awful T-shirt last week to an Antonio Brown T-shirt. I can see.
No, that's not true. I believe it says Super Bowl champions there, Neil.
Exactly. It's green, so it must be a Philadephia Eagles T-shirt.
No, it's definitely not that. Let's move on to the Sunday games. It's the Atlanta Falcons at the Indianapolis Colts. The Falcons move up to 14 in the power rankings. The Colts move up to 17. The Colts are favored by 2. Our power rankings are going with the Falcons. I don't think we are, though. I want to pick them. I've tried to be on the Falcons side for 2 straight games, but everything that I see about this particular matchup points to the Colts. And even when I find a positive stat for the Falcons, Matt Ryan passed for 320 yards and 3 touchdowns last week. It comes with a negative because he included 3 interceptions.
And one of those touchdowns was really Julio Jones's touchdown.
We're all going with the Colts here. We believe in Jacoby Brissett and the Indianapolis Colts.
No, we don't
mention here.
No, we don't, Neil.
Well, first of all, I do, but go ahead, Neil. Why don't you?
Well, no, I it's like I don't know. I don't believe in either of these two teams, but you've got to believe slightly less than in one of them, I suppose.
All right. James, what do you got for injuries?
For the Falcons, we've got Caleb McGarry, offensive tackle, Keanu Neal, safety, Luke Stockard, tight end, are all showing up on the injury report as questionable. They did put Rashid Hageman, defensive tackle, on injured reserve. For the Colts, T.Y. Hilton, Marlon Mack, Darius Leonard, Jabal Sheard are the big names showing up as questionable on the injury report this week. In the 2 games I've watched of the Indianapolis Colts, I am happy with Jacoby Brissett's performance. I am not happy with the performance of this offensive line and their pass blocking ability, because if these are the same 5 guys who blocked for Andrew Luck last year, I don't know what happened to them in the offseason, because on some pass plays it looks like they're quitting. I've seen interior rushes up the middle unchallenged, guys in Brissett's face where he has to use every single bit of his athletic ability. And last year, Andrew Luck stood behind the same offensive line most times, unscathed, unfettered, unbothered, unhindered. And I don't know what's gotten into them. But when this line shores up and plays the way that they played last year, or at least some semblance of what they played last year, Jacoby Brissett might set the world on fire.
I think it could be Braden Smith. He's playing right tackle, isn't he? He hasn't had a great start to the year, James. Jay, just to clarify my comments there, when you pick I find when I pick some of these games, I don't care. I'm not interested in either of the teams. It's a bit like, well, sometimes you see these questions you get like, would you rather be burned to death or drown to death?
Oh, my
it's like,
God.
well, actually, I don't fancy either of them, but I've got to choose one. I'm going to choose this one. So it's a bit like that,
Can we move to the next game?
I think I want to be drowned to death because I think you'd pass out before you actually die. Which would
for sure. I agree. Burning to death sounds way more painful.
Yeah, I think I'd take the burning.
We're not having this discussion.
Depends on how quickly you can burn to death. Like if it's a slow burn, then I really definitely want to drown.
A slow roast, nice tender skin to be served.
Get seasoned up for the cannibals. No, I don't want that. Cincinnati Bengals. They're at the Buffalo Bills. The Bengals have fallen to 28th in the power rankings. The Bills, one of those 2-0 teams, moving up to 15, and they are favored by 6 in this particular game. Rob has talked about this defense for quite some time, calling it nasty. Well, how nasty is it? I'm glad you asked. Safety Jordan Poyer had an interception last week. He has an interception in his last game versus the Cincinnati Bengals. Micah Hyde had a pass defense last week. He had an interception in his last meeting against the Bengals. Cornerback Tre'Davious White tied for team lead with 8 tackles last week, had 3 pass defense in the last meeting against the Bengals, had 28 tackles, 4 pass defense, and 2 interceptions in 8 home games last season. Linebacker Tremaine Edmonds, 7 tackles, a pass defense last week, aims for his 7th in a row with 7+ tackles. Linebacker Lorenzo Alexander had a forced fumble in his last meeting against the Bengals, aims for 3rd in a row with at least a half a sack and a pass defense. And defensive end Trent Murphy had his first career interception last week. The Bills might actually be for real. We're all taking the Bills. I don't know if you necessarily agree with me on the Bills being for real, but they're looking pretty good so far.
Yeah. They're looking all right. I mean, they should have lost week 1 to the Jets and Darnold. Let's not forget that. But C.J. Mosley and Quinnen Williams don't go out. They probably lose that game. But, yeah, they've been impressive so far. Josh Allen is probably doing better than I expected. I've heard a lot of comparisons to him and a healthy Cam Newton back in his day, which I sort of agree with. They're both, I mean, as you guys know, I'm not really the biggest Cam fan, so I don't know how much of a compliment that is towards Josh, but it's better than I expected him to be.
Just look around at the shambles of the AFC. I mean, all the quarterbacks going out and injuries, and so it's a good chance for the Bills to step up and take a playoff spot this year, surely.
The Miami Dolphins are at the Dallas Cowboys.
Says.
Oh, sorry. Forgot about the injuries.
Josh Allen has a foot.
For the Bills, Singletary, Johnson, and White are all questionable. Singletary has not practiced this week. Andre Roberts is doing some light practice after missing the first 2 games. And for the Bengals, C.J. Uzomah and Cordy Glenn are questionable for Sunday. Those are the biggest names showing up on the injury report for them.
Yeah. And if Devin Singletary doesn't play, get Frank Gore in your DraftKings lineups. I'm telling you right now.
All right. Well, a team that you're not going to want to touch with DraftKings or any fantasy, Miami Dolphins, they are at the Dallas Cowboys. Load up your Cowboys. Cowboys move up to 4th in the power rankings. The Dolphins, are they still the unanimous 32nd team in our power rankings?
They're unanimous. But
unless the genius in our pick league put the Patriots at 30 again.
No, he did only move the Patriots up to 15. I did not remove Greg out of the rankings this week, but in all honesty, yes, the Dolphins still remain unanimous number 32 amongst all SuperFans reporting. Actually, the most